Thank you, Naveen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Haider Al Seaidy, and I manage the Solutions Architect team at QlikView, based in Dubai. I have very short time today to discuss why data analysis is being looked at very closely by governments, and how data discovery tools such as QlikView can bring value add to government entities. The agenda I have is as follows. First of all, I'd like to actually step outside of the business environment and talk about a little bit how users are accessing information at home, and how that experience is actually now coming into the workplace. We'll then talk a little bit about data discovery trends in the BI space, and then I'll show you some solution areas where data discovery tools are being used in governments around the world. And we're going to finish off with a short demonstration of a QlikView data discovery application. So we'll show you a little bit of a product. Hopefully that will be interesting to you. So, the empowered consumer. We live in an era now where we are consumers, and we have access to consumer software, a software that does very, very powerful things, but is easy for the end user to consume and to access data. So, for example, we have Google, where I can search in my home, millions of web pages in the blink of an eye. Or Facebook, I can connect to all of my friends around the world. Twitter, I can follow influential people. Or websites like TripAdvisor, where I can read thousands and thousands of reviews on any hotel or destination around the world. So the experience that users are having at home is one that is very powerful. It's fun. It's very intuitive, and there's no end user training required. So users can access this information in a very, very easy way. And quite frankly, that experience, they're not able to replicate that experience in the workplace. This ability to access information freely is leading also to a change in behavior. And I think the iPad is a very, very good example of that, where we now live in an era where users are bringing their own devices to use in the office, their home devices to use in the office. There's a study that says 90% of iPads are bought by individuals, and yet 60% of iPads are used or partly used for work purposes. So there's a message in there, and what it's saying is that users are trying to bring the experience they have, the consumer experience they have with applications such as Google and Facebook and Twitter and all those things, and have a similar experience in the workplace. There's another key point here which starts to come directly into the realm of data discovery tools, and that is increasingly, according to Gartner, which is one of the leading technology analysts in the world, increasingly business users are driving the purchase of data discovery tools, okay? So whereas in the past, traditionally, BI would be bought by the IT department, business users are now realizing the value of data discovery tools and are actually driving purchases within organizations. And that's quite a big change. There's another reason, or a number of reasons, why data discovery tools are now becoming mainstream. Okay, it's becoming a mainstream architecture, again, according to Gartner. So if we look at the traditional BI tools in the market, the traditional way in which you would access reports, there are many problems in how those reports are delivered to the business users. First of all, often that technology is old. It was designed 15, 20 years ago to solve problems back then. And the reality is we live in a very different world today. We live in a world that is capturing a huge amount more data than we've ever captured. We live in a world where traditional BI is not reaching every corner of your organization. These are figures not presented by us. These are figures actually from Computer Weekly that say traditional BI is only reaching 1% of users in an organization. That means only 1% of users are being empowered with data to make better decisions in their day-to-day roles. The other problem with traditional BI is that it's actually slow to implement. And I think maybe many of you have had experience waiting 18 months for a BI project to be delivered, 12 to 18 months, or waiting 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks just for a report to be created and generated. And business is moving at a much faster pace than that. And really the proliferation of data discovery tools is really because of these reasons, because you can give that insight and that data insights, you can put that in the hands of the users in a much shorter space of time. I wanted to put some quotes just to really kind of reinforce this point. It's saying that as of today, again, according to Gartner, as of today, there is no single BI platform that can effectively cover the needs of a large enterprise solely. And I think, government, obviously, this applies directly to government. BI standardization has actually failed. More and more customers intentionally use 2 to 3 BI platforms to cover the needs of business users better. And finally, data discovery platform momentum accentuates the need for a portfolio approach. So what this is saying is that every entity that we visit, they say we have Oracle or we have SAP or whatever. The fact is that no BI vendor can give a best of breed experience for the different segments of BI. So, for example, you have reporting, you have data analysis, you have predictive, you have data mining. And what this is saying, what Gartner is saying, is that no one BI vendor can give you best of breed across that entire spectrum that organizations need. Now, essentially what we're trying to do with data discovery tools is we're trying to make data accessible and consumable to business users so that they can have a greater degree of self-service capability. They can start to investigate the data in new and unexpected ways, and they can start to really be empowered and find new insights in their data. And the key point here, and this is, now I speak for QlikView, is that we're trying to do this in a consumer way. So we're trying to consumerize our products so that business users can intuitively search the data, investigate, and find things that they didn't expect to find, new insights in their business. So we're trying to take the experience that a user has in the home and try and replicate that as much as possible for finding and accessing corporate data instead of accessing personal data and web data, shall we say. Now, the key point here is that, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he said, I have thousands and thousands of reports. And that's part of the problem, you have thousands of reports, overwhelmed with reports. How do you know which report to pick up? How do you compare and contrast two different reports? It's very, very difficult. And so data discovery applications really work in a different way, where they provide the full data set to the user, and the user can start to navigate and search that data at that point in time. And what it allows, compared to a report, is it allows the user to ask the next logical question. And really that's the value add, because when you see a report and you see something that's a high bar or a dip somewhere in your chart, the question is why? Why is this high? Why is this low? You want to investigate it further. And we describe that as being the next logical question. And what you don't want is to call up the IT department and say, I need another report in order to answer that question, and have to wait 1, 2, 3 weeks for that report to be created, because that moment is lost. And therefore, what we're trying to do is to give the user self-service capability to follow a thought process through the data. Okay, what happens if I remove this? How is this affected? What happens if I include that? Does it improve the margin or the percentage, and so on and so forth? Now, if we look at kind of common solution areas for data discovery tools within government entities, you know, and again, I can speak for QlikView, but QlikView is widely used throughout public sector organizations globally, through federal and regional governments, for public safety, defense, security, healthcare, and education. I'm going to just touch on the areas here, and then we'll go in and I'll give you some examples on exactly how they're being used. Okay, so in HR analytics, training, recruitment, nationalization, data discovery tools are being used extensively. You know, so Saudiization is obviously a key topic that requires data and KPIs to be presented. Finance and budgeting, finance and budget management, spend analysis, procurement. I'm going to give you a few examples on spend analysis, planning, supply chain management, executive balance scorecards, public information portals, and service delivery performance. If I just move to the next slide, we can start to run through some examples. So for example, in the UK, the police are using data discovery tools like QlikView to better plan and model the number of officers needed at given times in the year or at given events. In Sweden, in healthcare, lives are being saved through using data discovery tools like QlikView because they are better planning their ambulance, they're improving their ambulance response times by better positioning ambulances in certain locations at certain times of day where they can get to the patients in a shorter space of time. Again, in UK healthcare, in procurement this time, one of our customers saved £30 million over 5 years by improving their procurement processing, by bringing in all of the data from the 5 procurement hubs into one data discovery application, and to see that they were paying different prices for rubber gloves across all of those 5 procurement hubs. Now, once they had that data in a single place, they could then better negotiate with their suppliers to get a lower rate across for buying rubber gloves and, of course, many other medical supplies. In Australia, the Australian government have actually made data discovery available to the citizens of Australia to show them employment data and employment information, so publicly facing portals. And the last one, 2/3 of the UK National Health Service are using QlikView to better enhance their performance of doctors, nurses, and hospitals to ensure they can give better delivery on healthcare. My last slide before I jump into a demonstration. This is also another very interesting use case of how data discovery tools are being used. Again, a UK example. UK police force are actually doing some very interesting things with QlikView. They currently have a system called the ANPR system, which is automatic number plate recognition. So they have cameras all over the country that read number plates and digitize that information. So they do the recognition on those number plates. And that gets stored in a database. Now, typically in police, they obviously have many data sources. The ANPR system or database is one of them. And the real value add comes when you can combine these different data sources, when they bring in criminal information and combine it with the information that they've captured on knowing where a car was on a particular road at a particular time. Merging these two together, you can start to make some really powerful discoveries. So they can start to ask questions like, when we had a crime at this time, where were my criminals? Who were the criminals around this area at that point in time? By mixing and matching by mashing up these multiple data sets. Or where are members of my organized crimes meeting? Because you're tracking the car registration number, and of course you know who the owner is. So some very interesting use cases being used in government. Now I'm going to just head back to my laptop here, and I'm going to show you a very short demo of a QlikView application. This is using actually public spending data. It's US public spending, US government spending data, and the application is called improper payments. And what it essentially means is that the US government track all of their spending, and of that spending, there is a percentage that is deemed improper. And an improper spend or improper payment by the government is any payment that has been made to a supplier that is either too much or too little, so the amount is below or above the agreed amount, where there is not enough supporting documentation for the payment, where the wrong supplier has been paid, or where the money has been paid and it's been used for another purpose. Okay? So this is publicly available data that we've built a QlikView application on. Now, I'm just going to open up my the application, and we'll dive straight into the application. And we can see here that we're confronted with a dashboard. So some of the numbers in this application are very, very high, but as I said, this is publicly available, so this is essentially real data. Now, what we can see in the application here is that the data goes up to 2011, and in 2011, there was $115.3 billion made to suppliers by the government of payments that were deemed improper. So it's not to say, that's saying that there was an error, some kind of error with that transaction. The government US government have stated that they're trying to achieve a 5.3% improper payments percentage, and we can see that in 2011 it was 4.69. Now making a selection in 2010, I can see it was 5.29, and if I go back to 2009, I can see that we were above the 5.3% threshold, so we're at 5.39%. Now, that's all well and good, but the point is, this is a data discovery tool, and we want to find something unexpected in the data. I could have this in a report. It's not that much different at this stage. Now, if we look down on the chart in the bottom left-hand corner, I can see a breakdown now of the spend for each government entity. And if I drill into one of the government entities, I can see it broken down by project. So for example, for Treasury, I can see there was a 23.5% improper rate for that particular entity. For the Human Health Service, 8.3%. If I drill into that, I can see the breakdown now, and I can see that there's a problem with these three projects within the Human Health Service. Now, if I clear the application and just jump to the next tab, here we can see a quite interesting chart. I'll just explain it before I run it. So what we have here is along the x-axis, we have the total outlays. That's total spend, okay? And along the y-axis, we have the improper payment amount. So what you would expect, each bubble here is a government agency. And what you would expect is that as the total amount increases, you'd expect the improper payment amount to increase in proportion, because the more you spend, the more likely you are to make improper payments. Now, when I hit play, what will happen is that you'll see the bubbles start moving on the screen to reflect the improper payment rate at that point in the year. Let me just play it. I'm going to play this a couple of times, actually. So you'll see how the agencies are fluctuating over time. We're going through years here, so from 2004 down up to 2011. Let me just play that again. Keep an eye on this bubble here, okay? So I keep playing that. You notice the bubble increases dramatically in terms of the total outlays, and the improper payments amount increases, which is what you would expect. Now, from 2008 onwards, you'll notice the bubble rises sharply, which means that the payment amount didn't increase between 2008 and 2009, but the improper payments or mistakes increased massively. So that is a problem that needs to be investigated. It's something that can be highlighted in a data discovery tool. Now, my next logical question would be, okay, well, is this related to a specific project within this entity, or is it across the whole entity? So what I can do is just hover over the bubble. I can see that it's the agency name is HHS, which is, as I said, a Human Health Service. Let me make the selection, and now I'm looking at the individual projects within that particular government department. If I play the application again, okay, you'll notice, and I'll just play that one more time. You'll notice that this bubble is the offending bubble. This is the offending project. It increases sharply, okay, around the 2008 period. All the other bubbles, I'll play it one last time. From now, they're increasing diagonally, which is what we would expect. So this bubble is really showing unexpected behavior, and if I just hover over that, I can see that it's the Medicare Free for Service project. Okay, so I can select that from the list here. So the whole point is that data discovery tools allow you to see and find things under the surface of a report or of a dashboard. The idea is that you can drill to the next level and start to uncover opportunities or problems in your data. That is the end of my very short presentation. So I'd like to open up to any questions if there are any. If not, I'll hand back to Naveen, the host. Okay. Thank you for listening.